Good morning, everyone. This is John Wilson, the national spokesman for the Freedom Union of Australia. And today is Wednesday, the 11th of December. Hi, how are you? Today's upload, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be interviewing and having a great discussion with a on-the-ground activist called Steve Salter. Steve is a Taswegian, but he works in Darwin or offshore in Darwin on the Sunrise Gas Project. And Steve is a long-time member of the Maritime Union of Australia. Now, Steve has recently joined the Freedom Union, okay? And I asked Steve, why did he join, and asked Steve about, canvassed his opinion on a range of issues. Now, today I want to introduce you to Steve Salter, and we're going to open up the discussion about the state of the Australian union movement today and how badly they're letting their membership go. Steve Salter, good morning. Are you there, sir?
Good morning, John. Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Look, Steve, welcome to the Freedom Union, right? Okay, welcome to this interview. It's great to have you on board. Steve, let's talk about Maritime Union of Australia. Okay, you've been a mariner for how long, Steve? Give us a little bit about your work history, brother. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, thanks for inviting me anyway, John, to this meeting for a start. Yeah, I've been since 1983. I got away to sea in 83. I've spent most of my years in the union. I did get out there for a couple of years because I was trying to get my daughter through the courts back into my care, so she was being looked after. So that took me out there for 3-4 years or so. But most of my life has been at sea.
Steve, have you seen the power of trade unions and how powerful trade unions can be when workers collectivise and go after a common goal?
Yeah, I certainly have, John. And it was good to see back when I got away how powerful the unions were, and there was, there was acting in our interest. That's our officials. The unions, like I always say, the union, but the union membership is actually the union, and that's the way I always look at it. The officials are employees, and that's what's happening now. Is the employees are taking over the role of telling us what we can and can't do in our own union, and that's where we're sort of having a fallout now.
Steve, tell me, look, your honest opinion, mate. Let's not pull any punches. Let's just have a frank discussion. But your honest opinion about the Maritime Union, CFMEU stuff, all the corruption stuff that's coming out in Victoria and elsewhere. Where do you stand?
Look, mate, I can't believe it's got to where it is. The membership, like we used to go to meetings. I can remember years ago we'd go to meetings, you'd have blokes stand up against the officials and tell them what they thought and things like that. And it was good because it got everything out in the air and, it was open. A few years I was like here maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I was going to unions all the time, right up until I was even started going to meetings when I got back to sea after the court hearings and whatnot with my daughter. That was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. There was no really general business, and was told, sort of what was going on. We wasn't allowed to ask questions, especially with this COVID coming in and things like that. And I was asking questions about why we had to go through with it when it wasn't legal. All I was told was, yes, it was legal and they had to do it. And that was the end of the story.
Yeah.
Nothing gets into anymore. General business was shut down in a lot of the meetings I used to go to, in the last few years that I was going. So nobody had their say at a meeting. It was it was rigged.
Steve, let's talk about international law, brother. Look, as a mariner and a long-term mariner, the concept of international law is not lost on you guys, is it? You've been working under international law or with international laws forever, haven't you?
That's right. Yep, the law of the sea.
So international law, the Freedom Union adopting and pursuing international law as the you're supportive of that proposition?
Now, when I look at like maritime law, it runs most of the world. You know, most of everything's run by maritime law, even down to your birth certificates and things like that. I found out, you know, which I never ever knew about. It just sort of opens up a whole new ball game.
Yeah, I'm not talking maritime law per se, mate. I'm talking 2024, 2025 international law that's out in the open, and that's what they're administering around the world and here in Australia. This international law, it's not, it's not a question of me loving it, agreeing with it, or anything. I'm just calling it for what is. I mean, what are they administering? What law? And it is international law. Okay, so the Freedom Union, we've structured all of our affairs, and now we are uncovering defences, right? Or we are uncovering laws which really put this GovCo in a ton of hot water. Let's talk about this Rome Statute as an example, Steve, the tax, the war criminals, so that just to refresh your memory, what the Freedom Union of Australia has uncovered here, ladies and gentlemen, and Steve, my guest, is that once a GovCo, a GovCorp, right, is on the hook as a war criminal before the International Court, Criminal Court, right, once they're on the hook there, then it is illegal under international law for the population, and that's all of us, right, to fund them in any way. And that means taxation, fines, levies, and any other sort of funding. Under international law, it is unlawful for the population to support this GovCorp in their war crimes. And that's the current situation right now. Our relationship with this GovCorp has diabolically changed. Okay, diabolically changed. Okay, they're now war criminals. And now we have international law bearing down on us to honour our responsibilities, and that's to cease funding all tax, all fines, all levies. And the Freedom Union's job is to show you and all the union members how to do that. Would you support that sort of a campaign there, Steve? Would you support defunding this criminal government?
Certainly would, John. They've been getting away with it for much too long. I mean, all our hard-earned money they've been stealing from us, basically. I did see something here not long ago where it explained it in a way that by the time we pay taxes on certain things, like it might have been petrol and say alcohol or something, time you spent your $100 buying those, you was paying about 87 cents tax out of your dollar.
So that big money that you're earning, Steve, at big sacrifice and at heavy risk. This is not easy work, Steve, for all the brothers and sisters who are watching this interview. Offshore, that work out on that Sunrise Gas project, mate, can be very tricky, okay? But they're not paying, you're not earning you're earning colossal money up there, Steve, at great sacrifice. But man, oh man, tax, what are they doing to your pay packet?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure what we pay exactly with the tax. I know it's not a low rate. It's like 40 cents in the dollar or something. I'm sure now. Yeah, but I know it's way too much. And I mean, with the minerals we're giving away, like you've got China coming in, taking our iron ore, just taking it. I don't think they pay anything for it. They bring their own labour. It's just taken out of the country. They've got their own airports, their own berths for their ships. I mean, we're giving Australia away. We should be making that, and that the people should be benefiting from that. It's the people's land that we're giving away.
Yeah, good point, Steve. Good point. Listen, tax, the union's going to tackle that one. We've got it front and centre. we've released our latest campaign. Everyone out there, please join the Freedom Union. Stop paying tax, stop paying rates, stop paying fines and levies and all this sort of stuff. It is illegal. It is unlawful under international law. If you don't do this, ladies and gentlemen, then you become an accessory to GovCorp's, Albanese GovCorp's war crimes. Okay, that is the lawful pathway that you are now standing on. And the Freedom Union, under no circumstances, is ever going to support war criminals or war crimes. We're bringing it to your attention. We are telling you the facts. We're giving you all the law, and slowly but surely, we are engaging and talking through this matter at the ground level with our members like Steve Salter. Steve's just a working man, okay? Steve is not an international lawyer. Steve, at great sacrifice is trying to pay his bills and feed his families, but his take-home pay is just being corroded by taxation and other charges. It's out of control, ladies and gentlemen. Steve also, as a long-time member of the Maritime Union of Australia, which used to, by the way, truly represent its members, can attest to the strength of these trade unions, mate. There's a lot of strength in trade unions. So join the Freedom Union, ladies and gentlemen. Join the union. Help us make it stronger. Help us assist you in stop paying taxes and obtaining other lawful protections. Hey, Steve, what was your principal reason for joining the Freedom Union? What motivated you, brother? Okay.
I just wanted the people to take their own country back and like to be protected at work. I mean, you've got companies that will hold you to ransom over different things. Like I've been stuck out there, and we've had an incident where myself and another bloke was almost killed on the deck of a vessel. It was all tried to be covered up, and then they wouldn't even let us go on leave like we were supposed to. They sent us back to the job to finish it. All these sorts of things. We've got no say. We've got no rights in our own workplace. I mean, we just want to go out and do our job and go home to our families. You know, with the backing of our union. And like the MUA, when it used to be the SUA before it went to the MUA, it seems like every time they amalgamate, they lose the concept of looking after their workers more and more. It like weakens them from what they're supposed to be doing. They're bigger in the eye of the Australian people, but their power seems to be more for themselves, I think, than looking after their workers as they amalgamate more and more.
One of the things I've noticed, Steve, about the MUA, CFMEU, and a lot, or if not all of these pissant left-wing unions nowadays, is they've given up on supporting the working man and his family, right? They've given up, mate. They no longer represent the working man out there, and they no longer have the best interest of that working man's family at heart. And as a consequence of that, I am seeing regular attacks being made to undermine the family, to weaken the family, to separate vulnerable children from parents so they can be preyed upon. Okay, this is a big problem. Defending families, Steve. The Freedom Union, we are committed to that. We are committed to defending children, defending the family unit out there, and doing whatever we can to maintain and build that family into a strong one. Okay, the MUA have lost all of this, Steve. I can remember as a young child, once a year we had the union picnic on. The MUA, or the waterside workers, the Seamen's Union back then, they threw on a fantastic family day out. They really knew how to do it. They've lost it, Steve. They're now a captured operation for overseas forces, political forces, groups like the Open Societies Foundation, a George Soros-funded NGO. This is who they're now hanging out with. And the ordinary working guy like yourself, Steve, who's trying to keep their head above water when inflation is running through the roof, right, is just having his take-home pay ravished. They can't make ends meet. You're probably in a little bit luckier position than most, Steve. Around me here in Brisbane, up and down Musgrave Park and up at Caboolture and that, massive homelessness, massive. How's the homelessness down at Tassie, Steve? You seeing any of it?
Over the last 10 years, like I've seen people living in tents, cars, under rocks with sheets of tin over it. And like, I can't remember seeing that, like 10, 20 years ago. But now all of a sudden, it's just, I see it all the time.
Yeah. What about the two-tier policing, Steve? Are you seeing that where, ordinary people are getting belted by, all this weaponized magistrates court and cop charges, and these criminal bastards, mate, are doing what they want and walking away? You seeing any two-tier policing down that way there, Steve?
Yep. I mean, these mainly younger people, like they're riding their motorised bikes out into the traffic and causing accidents or, nearly causing accidents. I mean, if you hit one of them, you'd be the worst person in the world, but the cops will come around, they'll say, oh, yeah, we can't do anything. We can't do anything. But if they get someone comes in from some political, someone who's well up in the political field, they're down there lined up at the airport protecting them when they get off the plane. They protect them all the way into town. They'll do anything they can from there, bend over backwards. So we're paying them to protect these people that come in to see our government officials or whatever they're here to do. Maybe they're here to buy the rest of the place up. They've bought most of it now. But we're paying not for our protection. We're paying for these criminals. Yeah.
Steve, look, brother, I'm gonna give you the last word, and we're gonna slowly wrap this opening up. I'm opening up this Freedom Union channel to ordinary guys like yourself, Steve. I want to talk through matters on the ground. Okay, I want to hear from those people on the ground. And Australia, mate, has a massive waterfront. Okay, we're a bloody island. And all of those guys that do the jobs that Steve do, which is the maritime industry here in Australia, are critical people, mate. They're critical people. Steve, wrap it up, mate. Taxation, you remember, international law. We've covered a fair bit of ground. We've covered two-tier policing, two-tier law and order, what's out there. What would you like to wrap up, brother?
Well, I'd like to see, for a start, the unions turn around and start protecting us from these overseas shipping, like the ITF and things. But I can't see how it's ever going to happen, like when the head of our union is the head of the ITF in Australia. Like it's just a slap in the face, as far as I can see. We used to go into Sydney when I first got away. We were marching down George Street, to get people aware that we needed to be protected from the ITF and the cheap ships coming in taking our jobs. Now we've got no jobs; they've taken over. So I just want to come on here and I'll get a bit of flack when I go back to work and things like that, no doubt. I've been cast out of the union now because I wouldn't pay my dues, because I refuse to pay to keep people in the power that they're in my own union. There's got to, we haven't got to say anymore. We can't do anything. So I just want to say that anyone out there who sees this, just stand up for your rights, for your rights and your family. That's because we've got to take our country back. And this is the only way we can do it. And the thing you're doing, John, I mean, that's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. It probably is the greatest thing I've ever seen for taking our country back. Because if we don't, we'll all be lined up shortly. They'll be force injecting us. They'll be locking us down in 15-minute cities, things that people think is conspiracy theory. And it's all happening right in front of them. I mean, they're poisoning our food. They have been for years, but now it's getting worse and worse. Poisoning our airways, poisoning, everything. And it's just not right, and we've got to do something about it. And I'm just hoping people will wake up, especially if they see this on here. I don't know. What are our kids going to say?
Steve, let's you and I try together a small parcel of these maritime workers together and do a discussion, do an online interview, just to talk matters out, right?
I've been trying to get that happening, John. A lot of people think they're doing the right thing by sticking by the unionists, telling them, you know, how good it is, you know, to be sticking with them as things are. We're losing our jobs more and more every day. They're promising us new shipping lines and things like that, which are never ever going to come. They've been promising them for years, you know. But as long as they keep people believing in what they tell them, people are too scared to get out, and they're too scared to look any further. And I just don't want my kids in a few years' time to say, well, what did you do, Dad, you know, when this all started going down.
All right. Listen, brother Steve, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's do this again, can we? Let's do this again. And let's try and get some other maritime lads together and talk these matters through.
This ad's out.